Hey guys, today I would like to talk with you about The Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo, the fantasy adventure novel which has been published in 2013 and which is the second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, as well as the second book in the Grishaverse series. As per usual, we will start with a short synopsis, then proceed to the spoiler-free review and wrap it up with the spoilers. If you haven't read The Siege and Storm, do not worry, I will let you know when to turn off the video so nothing from the book would get spoiled. However, if you clicked on this video, I have to assume that you have already read The Shadow and Bone, the first book in the trilogy. Therefore, I do need to warn you that this whole video will include the spoilers from Shadow and Bone. So we start this book almost where the first one left off. Alina and Mal running away and trying to find a place to hide from the Darkling, while keeping their identities a secret. While Mal flourishes everywhere he goes, Alina has a bit of a hard time trying to get used to her new environment and to the fact that she is forced to suppress her powers, which starts making her feel ill and weak again. She also is obviously scared for their lives, has no legitimate plans for the future, and is feeling guilty about the whole mess that happened in the Shadow Vault. However, just a couple of chapters in, Darkling manages to find Alina and Mal, mainly because they're simply two teenagers who are just not that very good at hiding from an all-powerful Grisha. He easily overpowers them and sets to take them back to the kingdom of Ravka with the help of a pirate. Privateer named Sturmhond. So I know that's barely anything, but I promise that's honestly, this is everything I can't tell you without starting to spoil the plot, as things in Siege and Storm develop rather quickly. Myself, I thought that we would spend half of the book of reading about Alina and Mal trying to hide from the Darkling, but I was definitely very happy when I learned that this is not going to be the case. From what I have seen, people have very mixed opinions when it comes to Siege and Storm, as well as the Shadow and Bone trilogy as a whole. I remember writing a review for it and then settling in to read the reviews of other people just to see what they have to say about it. And I actually got quite surprised over how differently readers perceive the same thing. Some claim that the plot has drastically improved from the first book, and that the book is interesting and unpredictable and shows great character development, especially when it comes to Alina, while others perceive Siege and Storm as a barely moving snooze fest. I guess there is no right or wrong here. You have to read the book yourself and see whether it's something you enjoy or is it something you want to start a dumpster fire with. As for me, I have this first teenage ping Lass's irrational love when it comes to Shadow and Bone trilogy, and there's nothing that can be done about it. It is not to say that the books do not have issues. Of course they do. The powers Alina possesses are rather vague and not very consistent, as well as the new powers Darkling acquires are not very well explained. Characters can get very irritating at times, and some plot points are easily predictable. And yet, I'm still in love with these books. For me, these things I've just mentioned feels more like a nitpicking, like things I can easily overlook and concentrate on the bigger picture instead. I think that this book, compared to the first one Leigh Bardugo wrote, went further away from the young adult tropes and instead gave us a great fantasy story filled with a feeling of a never-ending adventure. The story is still written with a younger young adult audience in mind, but it definitely shows an improvement story-wise. I haven't had a dull moment while reading this book. Everything just kind of fell into its place. Nothing felt forced or unnecessary to me. It was a pleasure to see Alina to grow into her powers, take a lead, and actually stand her ground. Besides that, multiple new characters introduced in this book truly complemented the story and helped to make Grishaverse feel more real. They all had their own motives and their own paths. They weren't just a box for Leigh Bardugo to fill. And talking about new characters, you can't discuss Siege and Storm and not talk about Nikolai. That man just stole the show. Without a doubt, Nikolai and his easygoing, cocky attitude is one of my favorite things about the whole trilogy. He's such a ray of sunshine. And believe me when I say it, we do need a bit of sunshine in this book, because Mal has decided to let his inner Debbie Downer out to play. And yet I can't really be mad at Mal either. I mean, even though he wasn't the most exhilarating character to read about, I do understand the reasons behind his behavior. The boy just feels useless for the first time in his life, as well as afraid for Alina, which leaves him to lash out on the things beyond his comprehension. Now, would some honest conversation with Alina improve his well-being, and would it make everyone's lives easier? Definitely. But then again, even if they are almost undefeatable, incredibly powerful, super intelligent, and always ready to save the world, they're all still a bunch of teenagers. And when it comes to expressing emotions, teenagers have a tendency to be a little bit stupid. And now we come to the fun part, where we can finally freely discuss the book. So if you haven't read Siege and Storm yet, but you feel like it would be something interesting for you to read, stop this video now, because here comes the spoilers. First things first, let's discuss the plot. As I've mentioned before, I thought that the author will try to drag out the whole Alina and Mal tries to hide plotline for as long as she could. I was wrong. Then I thought that we would get to see Alina imprisoned and under Darkling's control for a while. I was wrong again. And then when I got to know about there being 3 amplifiers instead of 1, I thought it would take us the whole book again just to locate the Sea-Whip. Wrong once more. Just a side note, by the way, nobody can convince me that Nikolai doesn't have magical powers. I mean, he managed to escape one of the oldest and most powerful Grishas with the most precious cargo, aka Alina, and still catch the Sea-Whip in the process. Now that's what I call multitasking. One more thing that I was actually quite surprised to learn about was this whole shipping thing when it comes to Alina and the Darkling. I mean, I do understand the Darkling's appeal to the reader. He's super handsome, charismatic, and mysterious. A truly interesting multi-layered villain. And while I do agree that Alina and Darkling might have some chemistry going on, I just can't seem to get over the fact that the Darkling is a few hundred years Grisha who wants to enslave Alina and use her for her power. I mean, no judgment if you do, it's just not quite my cup of tea. And that leads me to the next point. I argued about this in the review of the first book, and I'm willing to continue this fight, but I do not see any actual love triangle or love square or love pyramid here. Okay, so just let's look at this together. For this to be a love triangle, at least 2 characters need to be in love with Alina, or Alina needs to be in love with at least 2 characters at the same time. Seems easy enough, right? Now let's look at the men of this book and their motivations. First we have Mal. Not gonna argue here, he is smitten. Then we have Nikolai, who needs a wife. And he made it quite clear pretty much from the get-go. He offered Alina a loveless marriage just for the sake of appearances. An arrangement in which she could still keep Mal on the side. I'm not saying that in time Nikolai could not or would not learn to love Alina. He's a good, caring man after all. But as of the time of this book, his proposal is nothing more than a political agreement that would eventually elevate Nikolai's position in the court and solidify his claim to the throne. And last but not least, we have the Darkling. I would say that his motivations concerning Alina haven't changed much from the first book. He still needs her in order to control her powers and use them as a weapon against the enemy territories and pretty much everyone who disagrees with him. However, I believe that in this book we also start to get a glimpse into the Darkling as a lonely person. I'm still sure that he doesn't love Alina, nor does he want her. He just wants someone who understands him. And in his twisted mind, the only person who can understand him is the only other person with the unique abilities. Now, I do believe that they all want Alina for themselves, but love has nothing to do with it. When we talk about Darkling or Nikolai, they do not love Alina. They need her, or they need something from her. And that, in my opinion, is sad and not romantic. And as for Alina, you can put it however you want. She only has eyes for Mal. Not that I agree with her. If I was in her shoes, Mal would have been left to fend for himself back in the Shadowfold, and all of my attention would be given to Nikolai. However, there is no evidence whatsoever in this book that she actually has any romantic feelings for the other two. Yes, she wants to kiss Nikolai after she breaks up with Mal, but that's only because she is feeling heartbroken and petty. And the only thing that attracts her to the Darkling is the connection they share by being the only ones with the special kind of powers, and of course the bite of one of the Darkling's creatures. Therefore, I just cannot agree with the statement that Leigh Bardugo is using the love triangle to stir up unnecessary drama in her books. For me, this is not Team Edward or Team Jacob situation. If anything, this triangle enhances the plot, as it also touches upon the subplot of the importance of political alliances and the ultimate fight between continuing to fight the losing fight on the side of the good or giving into your darkest self just because it's an easier option. Oh, and one more thing I truly appreciated in Siege and Storm was the chain of events that led us to the ending of the book. Starting with Nikolai's birthday, his brother's fuck-up, the brutal Darkling's attack, and the epic last scene in the church. Once I started reading this, I knew that I'm not going to be able to put the book down until I'm done with the very last page. And I was not disappointed. Our little sun summoner, trapped underground, unable to summon the sun. Oh well, but that's just my opinion. What about yours?